Welcome back to another episode of the Autonomy podcast. And this week, and I've got another guest on board. Seems like we're getting lots of guests recently. Pat, not going to say too much about this one, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And there's lots of insights to be had. Tune in to get some great knowledge and insight. Hey, Kat, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. It's getting warm here. We were just saying before that where you are now is really warm as well, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit too warm. I'm hiding inside.
For everyone, the listeners, where are you based?
So we're in Hossegor, so southwest coast of France.
And it's the place to be, apparently.
I don't know. No, it's lovely. It is really nice. We're just near Biarritz, so it's been good. I was in England for most of the summer, and apparently the weather was crap the whole time I was away. And then I've come back, and we've got summer, and all the tourists have gone, so it's a bit perfect.
Then you're bringing the sunshine wherever you go, then.
Of course.
Absolutely. So let's get you on here and just have a general chat about life, but also just like specializing in a particular area, that things that you've gone through in your life, and just some I guess some life lessons from that. So just tell the listeners about what you do, what were the last like 5-6 years have taken you, where you're at right now in terms of like what you do for a living, and just general who you are and what you do.
Okay, so 6 years ago, I moved to France. So before that, I was working in England. I had like a mobile personal training business working with mainly new mums, some pregnant ladies, but mainly new mums. And then I just didn't want to live in England anymore, basically. So I moved over to France with my daughter, who was 7 at the time, and did a bit of personal training here, but realised that I didn't speak enough French to have that many clients. So I only really worked in the summer when people came on holiday. Then I got a job working as a waitress to learn French, and then I ended up in a shop, and then I ended up working for a surf brand on their product management team. And then, but while I was working there, I sort of thought, oh, actually, I really miss working health and fitness. So I started studying nutrition. I qualified from that in June 2019. 2 months after that, I had an accident. And then basically because of that, I just haven't gone back into the office. It just kind of made me reassess what I was doing in my life. And to be fair, actually, in the lead up to the accident, like I wasn't enjoying that job anyway. So it kind of just gave me that sort of little kick up the arse to scrap it and go back down to sort of where my passion was, really. So now I'm coaching, but online, because then I can have English clients and not have to worry too much about my French.
Hello. What was it like? Because I've done it before, but like a lot of people might not have done that before. What was it like uprooting your life with a little one?
So have you done that before? Have you with a little one?
No, not that I know of, but I've uprooted myself.
Little mini Nathans all around the world.
You can never say never, can you? Or you don't know.
Yeah, I think it's funny now when I look back on it, because at the time it didn't seem like a big deal. It felt like something that I knew that I didn't want to be in England anymore. I knew I wanted to be away, but I didn't know where. And then we just happened to come on a holiday here because earlier that summer me and my dad had gone to watch the Beach Boys in concert at Newmarket Races. I was like, they were singing about surfing, and I was like, oh, I've got a sister that lives in Sydney, and I hadn't been there for years, and I was like, oh, surfing, I'd love to go surfing again. So I literally went and was Google like surfing in Europe, and this place came up. So we booked it as a holiday and came and just absolutely loved it. And so the guy that picked us up from the airport when we got here, I said to him, like, oh, we just seem to do the same holidays all the time. Like, because he said, why did you come here? So I said, like, we always go to Ibiza to see friends. We always go to Australia to see my sister, or we go to Spain to my parents' house. Like, we don't often go anywhere new. And I just wanted to do something new. And I said to him at the time, I was like, I mean, I'm sure we'll have a nice time here, but I doubt we'll even come back here, to be honest. Like, I just want to see. And literally less than a year later, we'd moved, because it was just, I don't know, it's just something about it. It's just a really, really nice place to be. There's a lot of like international people as well. It's not just French or English. You've got Australians, Swedish, Germans, all sorts.
Yeah.
So it is nice. But yeah, so I think I decided to do the move, and everything, when things just fall into place, everything just goes, it was like that, really. Like the house that I owned in England, my friend was renting one up the road. She didn't want to rent it anymore. And her rental contract was coming up around the same time that we were moving. So she was like, oh, can I just move into yours? So I didn't have to like pack up my whole house and get loads of stuff out. And then I had a friend here who had heard of a house that was coming available over here. You know, like everything it was all just a bit too easy, really. But now I look back on it and I just think, oh my God, I can't believe I literally took my daughter out of school, flew to another country. I didn't have a job. I had nothing. Like I'm like, you idiot. But hey, it worked out.
I've been in those scenarios before where, like, often the biggest decisions that you have, when they're the right ones, they often just end up being the smallest decisions. Like, they take up so much so much little power in your brain that you just like, you're convinced that it's going to be okay, and you're like, yeah, the biggest decision. Like when I moved to London, I literally was just sitting there one day and I was looking at the universities. I was like, Middlesex sounds nice. Where's that? I was like, that's in London. I was like, yeah, I'll go there. And then like I was like, okay, I'll do that. And then when Dubai the first time came around, yeah, I'll go there. That'd be great. And then it all just falls into place. And then this time around, yeah, I'll just go to Dubai. It's fine. And they always just seem to work out when it's the right thing to do, doesn't it?
100%. It's weird because I remember saying to people then, I was like, I said, like, I can't tell you why. I said, but I just know that this is the right thing to do. Like, I know it's going to work out. And that was my reasoning. So, I mean, I'm still here. It was 6 years ago. We were only going to come for 3 max. I wanted to go back to England for high school for Georgia, but here we are still.
They say that a lot in Dubai as well. Everyone says, oh, we'll just be here for 3 years, 6 years, 12 years later, they're still here. Don't like it doesn't ever work like that. It's just the easy way to not commit yourself to a 10-year.
That's true.
Yeah.
Non-committal.
Yeah, literally, it's like these commitment phobes. It's all the mid-20s trying to run away from the UK. They all come to Dubai and then they're like, oh, how long you to be? I don't know, maybe a year or two. They don't want to commit to anything longer. Yeah, so like obviously but that's quite a big move within itself. But then in terms of the accident that you had, what happened to you there?
So that was 2000. In fact, you know what I was thinking earlier? It was today. It's 2 years today that I came out of hospital. I just realised earlier on. But anyway, so basically, and it was 2 years ago, 27th of August. I was with a friend, and we were going to go and do an exercise class. So we've got another friend that is a sports coach as well. She does this thing. Have you heard of animal flow?
Yes, yeah, it's weird.
Okay.
I've done it a few times, and like I just realised how unflexible I am by trying to do animal flow.
It's quite a wild one, isn't it? I mean, this woman, Unate, who does it, she's amazing. But anyway, we went there. We tried to go there. We didn't make it. So basically, I'd decided, I wasn't sure if I was going to go. We'd gone out for dinner the night before. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to come or not. And then I ended up, so I texted Unate to see if she had a space. And I said, we'll leave it like that. If she texts me back and says there is, then I'll come with you. With my friend Mimi, who was at the time staying at our house or just upstairs in the studio. And basically the next morning, she came downstairs. All I can remember basically is her coming downstairs, coming around the corner of the house while I was waiting for her outside. And I just remember sort of seeing her come around the corner of the house and me being like, oh, hey. And then the next thing I remember, we were walking up the road and I'd looked up and said like, oh, there's Lauren, which was another friend that we were going with. So I think I just remember looking up and saying that. I don't remember where she was. I think just crossing the road or something. But anyway, and then the next thing I know, I was in the hospital. And so basically what I know is I still don't know officially what happened. I'm still waiting for the police to, anyway, I won't go into that, but it's just being a bit annoying. But basically, so a guy was driving along the road and he fell asleep at the wheel and came off the road onto it's not a pavement here, it's just like sand and grass, but it's the verge basically. And so we were walking on the verge today and he basically came off the road and ran us down. And Mimi she was on my right, and so she took the brunt of the impact. And I think, judging by my injuries, it was a van, so I think I'd got the wing mirror and then like the front sort of corner of the van. So I broke my jaw I had like several fractures on my face, basically. Lost a few teeth, 5 teeth, I think. And then my knee, I broke my tibial plateau, ruptured my ACL, another one. I'm not sure which one.
CL. It has
LCL?
a CL. It has a CL
I
at
think
the
it's
end.
LCL, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Meniscus, and then that biceps femoris that we've been talking about, causing me some jip. So then I was in hospital for 10 days, and then on to like a lot of rehab. But obviously the Mimi didn't survive. And so I think it's just been really hard for me, like more, I don't know, like a mixture of mental and physical healing basically has been difficult.
Yeah.
A lot of, I think because when I was going into, I was really lucky actually, because I'm a personal trainer. There's a sports rehabilitation place just down the road here. That's apparently one of the best in Europe. You get loads of the Premiership footballers flying out to go there. But because I'm a personal trainer, because I'm technically a professional sports person, I could go there. So I was there for a few weeks, and it was just really hard at the beginning because I felt like I was really lucky to have gone there. But then at the same time, I just felt so guilty, like, it just felt so unfair that I was there and Mimi wasn't. And so there was that kind of psychological side as well. But they do have a psychologist that works at the centre as well. So I did a lot of EMDR therapy, like it's like light therapy with your eyes.
Yeah.
So that helped a lot with guilt. But yeah, I don't know. It's a whole mixture of different things, really.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about this before when it was the anniversary. It was like, it's never gonna go away, is it? Like,
Yeah.
it's never. No, it's not meant to. It's not meant to go away. It's just meant to be, I don't know, better dealt with. I don't know even if that is even a way to look at it. But in terms of with the work that you had to do on yourself, both physically and mentally, how did you go from, or how did you feel once you went from like coming out of hospital and then having to do all this rehab and stuff like that? How did you feel when obviously a lot of your life beforehand was done around like personal training and being active and stuff? How did you find that whole rehabilitation process?
I think, I don't know if I'm just going quiet because I'm trying to think if what sort of like my previous personal training experience had much to do with. To be honest, I think it was a lot more of it was mental. I don't know if really my work history came into it much. It was more like it was just something that I had to, like, I knew I had to do it, if that makes sense. Like I felt like I had to give it my all because it wasn't fair otherwise that I was still here. So I was just like, if I'm here, then I need to make this really good, like to get better as quickly as possible and just look after my body as well as I can, because I'm lucky to have it, basically.
Like the privilege.
Yeah, it was quite a thing, because I think initially I was in a wheelchair. I had like a full leg cast. So I was, I mean, it could have been so much worse for me, and that's what I always think. I think, well, if I'd had those injuries from falling down the stairs, the whole thing would have been 10 times easier. So do you see what I mean? It's not like, oh my God, my physical injuries were so bad, and I just broke my leg and broke my jaw. But at the same time, I don't know, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah. What type of, just out of interest, what type of questions did the therapist ask you to like create? I assume they would try and make better like perspective or change the perspective of what you're doing. Like, what type of questions were they even like entertaining, or was it just like, look at this light, look at this light, look at this light?
Yeah, so I was going to say, so basically I've had 2 therapists. So the one at the rehabilitation centre, she was very much like, okay, here's the light, let's go. And she worked. So, okay, the first time, because I went there twice, because basically I'd had the surgery, and then about 6 to 8 months later, I had to have the ACL surgery. So the first time I was there, she did like this weird thing that didn't really work, in all honesty. So, but then I was having like talking therapy. I don't know if it's CBT or not, to be honest, but basically, I mean, I still see her now. I still see the psychologist. So I had a lot of sort of talking about the accident with her. And then the EMDR, when I went to the rehabilitation centre the second time, that was literally just like, she put this light on and I just had to just watch this light and think about, I think you had to like name an emotion of, you know, how you felt at this specific time and just work on it through that. But I mean, it's just the most bizarre thing. Like, it's incredible. If someone said to me, like, you're going to do this and it's going to help you, I'd have been like, yeah, all right, sure. But like, it blew my mind a bit. It was pretty incredible, and it definitely made a difference for me, because I was literally riddled with guilt. I just felt, because I don't know what happened. I don't remember it. We weren't there, so I don't know. Did I see the car coming? Could I have pulled her out the way? Did she push me out the way? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know any of this, and that's really hard for me. But yeah, I don't know. In terms of like the talking therapy, I don't know. I was seeing her every week. I see her a bit less now, every few weeks, but I think she just gets me talking really about how the week is, how I'm feeling about this. And yeah, I don't know. I can't really think of anything specific. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think that's the take home really, is that the talking is a massive part of it. Like, I had mine today, and even just like speaking about stuff and then picking up words that you utilize about yourself. And like, for me, like, I said something today and she was like, can we just go back to that for a minute? I'm like, oh no. What is this? I was like, what did I say? And then she reminded me of something that I said, and it's like, oh wait, I do talk to myself like that. And I'm like, oh god, I didn't think I did that. But like, the catching of words and the speaking about it just helps to ease that whatever emotion you're feeling. And then
I'm so like pro therapy. I think everyone should just go and have it, even if they think they're fine. Like
yeah. I wrote a passage in the book that I'm writing, and I was like, can we just lay it out here? Don't hit rock bottom before you have to get therapy. Go and get it when you feel great, so you can feel better, as opposed to hitting rock bottom and then having to work your way out of rock bottom. Because although rock bottom is a steady place to start, it's not particularly a nice one for anybody, really. So, you know, what do they say? Smart people learn from their own mistakes. Even smarter people learn from other people's mistakes. So then after the accident, and then you, as you said, it was like you pushed it. Now you're like, you thought, okay, I'm going to take my business and move it. Well, I'm going to move online completely now. So what are you doing now? What's the what it worked? What are you doing now?
So online coaching, so nutrition, fitness, but you know, pretty much the same as you. But not, you know, obviously everyone has a different characteristics and different ways of doing things. So I think from my perspective, it's less about kind of you know, lose this amount of weight in this time frame, and it's more about moving your body and exercising to feel good and improve your mental health. And obviously getting a killer body is a side product. That's great. But that's not like what I'm honing in on, if you know what I mean. It's more about just kind of feeling good, because, you know, like, if you can move, the fact that we can move is just amazing. And I think that a lot of people take it for granted and just, you know, just sit around and don't do anything. And it's like, come on, like, just move a bit and see how much better you feel afterwards, you know? And like fueling your body rather than feeling like, you know, restricting things and feeling like you can't eat this and you can't eat that, like just finding a way to incorporate everything into your day. Well, not everything in one day.
That's a really good inclusive diet. I want that. I'm standing up.
Give it a good go.
Yeah, that's true.
Those M&S biscuits.
Oh, M&S biscuits, Percy Pigs, and Fox's biscuits, always a winner for me.
Yes.
So then, I always ask this question to mums or dads that are on the podcast for sure, because I'm just intrigued by this whole like child conditioning. That's a wrong word to say, but like in terms of how the thought processes around how you are conditioning your child for later life. And I asked Samantha Jordan this, who you know, this morning, about like what types of things are you doing with your little ones to make sure that they get the right habits when they're older. So is there any conscious things that you're doing with, I mean, it's not so little now, but when when she was little, what were you kind of doing? Was there any specifics that you were focusing on to make sure that she grew up the right way?
Being completely honest, I was winging it. Like,
I don't think anyone really knows, do they? I mean, not that I know, but
I was sitting there like, do I make something up? No, like literally.
4 piece of fruit a day.
Yeah. No, not at all. But I think as well, I didn't grow up. I suppose in a way you kind of parent your children in the way that you were raised as well, unless it was awful and then you try and do something different. But I feel like I had a nice childhood. I've not ever had any issues around food or, I mean, I suppose the difference between Georgia and I was like very sporty at school. I loved sport, and she is less so. And I think that's something that I struggled with that a bit, because I was like, come on, like, why don't you want to do this? And I was like, how can she not be like that? I was like that, you know?
Yeah.
So I suppose consciously the thing I've done is try not to be like that and just let it, you know, she's her own person and a different person. But certainly in terms of nutrition, there's nothing, I've not done anything consciously. Like she's vegetarian and I'm vegetarian. But I didn't sort of force that on her. Like I went vegetarian and I still cooked her meat, and then she just chose then to go vegetarian. Sorry, I'm just pausing and laughing because I was just thinking, she always says, I don't remember this, but she was like, yeah, it's because you showed me a video of a pig being thrown in a pig.
There you go. There's the parenting tip number one.
I'm like, she's not vegetarian because of me, but maybe she is. I don't remember doing that. I think maybe, I don't know. That's terrible if I did.
That one time that you showed her that pig getting crucified.
Yeah, oops. But no, I mean, otherwise I don't. And the thing is, I think because I'm not funny around foods or anything like that, like I don't really worry about her relationship with food. Like she'll just eat whatever and do whatever. And yeah, sorry, I've got no major parenting advice there.
That's great, because actually what most of the issues are around kids and their upbringing, conditioning around parents, is either the ones that really don't give a fuck and they don't lead by example. They don't have any principles. Like they're the obese ones, the ones that have, like, you know, my family, who had 12 packs of biscuits in the cupboard every single day, and you could go and pick it out when you wanted to, and there's no rules around or boundaries.
Yeah.
But then there's also these people that are, the mum and the dads are still trying to grasp nutrition themselves, so they're overly hard on the people around them, because then, like, the mum is still yo-yo dieting and on a diet, and they're like, she's eating the chicken and veggies, and then she lets everybody else know that she's eating the chicken and veggies, and that gives the kids a complex, because they're like, I don't want to be like mum eating like the same thing every single day or whatever it is. And I think having either the way that you're doing it, which is pretty laissez-faire but leading by example, because you eat decent foods and you have a good blend, obviously, because I coach you, because I know, so you have a good blend, and a couple of chocolate brownies here and a couple of extra vegetables there. It's like, you know, it's a good lead by example process. And I think if you can lead by example and you're not too overly constrictive, not that I'm a parent at all, I have no clue what I'm talking about, but I've read enough books, if that makes any difference. But I've also read books about relationships, and that doesn't really work out for me either. So hypothetically, this is that you lead by example to one sentiment, and then you don't overly force your opinion on someone else. I think they're the type that is a good blend.
I think, I'll tell you what I have sort of, I suppose, been a little bit more conscious of, is where I've then been tracking, or, you know, like, oh no, but I'm only eating this, and sort of making sure that she, you know, this has been recently, just sort of making sure that she knows that's not because I'm trying to lose weight and be a certain size. It's because I'm, you know, I'm wanting to get strong, and I want to get, you know, and it's just kind of the language that you use around her as well. And because she's also taking my progress photos every week, do you know what I mean? I don't want her to think like, oh, she's, you know, just, I don't want her to see anything kind of, it's not obsessive, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just tracking something, isn't it? But I don't want her to think that that's the norm. So I'm always like, yeah, I'm just getting stronger, or that kind of
terminology is so important. He's like, oh, I have to do this, I have to take the progress pictures because I have to get this, or you say, we're just taking progress pictures to see how I'm progressing. Like, this terminology is crazy important, and wording, what sticks with people as well.
She finds it hilarious anyway. I mean, you know, she sent you a photo of me eating a McMuffin, didn't she? She was like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all the time now she's like, I'm going to tell Nathan. I'm just like, stop.
Yeah. But I like that because that means there's the element of fun and games, and they know, like when I've met like the kids from the parents, there always seems to be like with the great ones that really understand it, even the kids understand it in a positive light. There always seems to be like, oh, Nathan, he's the coach of mummy or whatever, and he tells mummy what to do sometimes, and like she normally doesn't do it because she normally eats biscuits in the back, or you know, but the ones that they have that good relationship. The kids and the mum and dad have a great relationship with. The parents are pretty vocal about why they're doing it and how they're doing it. But actually, some of the times that it doesn't really seem to fit is the when the parents aren't vocal about why they're doing or what they're doing, and the kids are just like, "You're getting what?" or like, "You're doing what?" and they're trying to like hide it, but the kids see everything, don't they? Like, and they observe and they follow massively. So
And they listen a lot more than you think as well, don't they?
yeah, through doors and windows. I used to like,
Yeah.
I remember
Took the glass out.
yeah, literally. I remember everything that I don't know, but I sound like a record where mum and dad were like arguing all the time. But when shit was going on downstairs, I used to like, I've got like a stairway that's in the middle and the two doors and two rooms on two sides, other two on that side. So I used to lie down on the floor of the carpet so I could peek my ear around the top of the stairs to hear what my mum and dad were speaking about. Normally it was around about the Christmas time because I was like hearing whether I could like hear what they were going to get me for Christmas, or like if we're going to go and get that for him from Argos, or when do we go, because they used to be, but my dad used to talk to my mum through a room. He's got his abode, his computer room, and she had her room, which is the main room where she'd watch TV, he'd play his computer, and that was the time that's their relationship done and dusted in a nutshell. So they talk, but that'd give me enough space to hear what was going on. So like I would do stuff like that, and like I'm sure that people will do exactly the same as that. You know,
Yeah.
if I'm doing it, then everyone else is doing it.
G will sometimes ask me stuff, and she's like, "Oh, so like she'll ask me about some conversation that I'd had with someone the other day, and where I'm in the kitchen, she's like through the other side of the house, supposedly." And she'll be like, "Oh, so blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "How do you even know about that?" She's like, "Oh, yeah, I heard you." I'm like, "Oh, right."
Yeah, I need to tone that down a bit. But it's so important, isn't it? Like tonality, wording, and also then like them the perception of them listening more than we ever do, you know, ourselves, because we're so focused on what we're doing in our lives and like maybe
Yeah.
that task at hand that we don't actually perceptively hear, but kids perceptively hear everything. That relationship that they have with their parents is also pushed into food as well. Like,
Yeah.
what type of like? This is a question I always ask parents as well. Are you a parent that says, "Eat till you're full," or are you a parent that says, "Finish your plate"?
I'm more of a finish your plater, I have to
Interesting.
say. Or I was. I've got a bit better at that now, but I was, because that's what it was like for me when I grew up. It was like, you know, finish what's on your plate. To the point where like now I will like, I'm better now because obviously I'm, since working with you as well, like tracking and all the, you know, I'm actually better at I think because before I didn't really have that much of a goal. Like I was just like, yeah, no, I'm all right. And just like I'd train a bit and eat and all good. Whereas now I've had sort of more clear goals of what we're doing. Obviously now my portion control is better. Whereas before I'd be like, oh, cooked a bit too much pasta. Oh well, on the plate. And then I'd be like, well, I can't leave it. And then I'd just sit there like, oh. But so I have got better at that myself. And I think, yeah, with G, when she was younger, I used to be like, no, eat it, come on, because I don't know. It's interesting, actually, isn't it? I suppose because I would know what she's having for breakfast, I'd know what she's having for lunch and then dinner. So you'd think, well, that's an all right portion. That's what you should be eating. And actually, no, I do know why I did it, because then she'd say, oh, I'm not hungry. And then she'd get down. And an hour later, she'd go and raid the bloody biscuits in. And I'm like, nah. So I actually think that's probably more about it. Like you will eat, but she's a sneaky little snacker, G. She is.
Okay,
I heard
what
her
does
last
she?
night. I went to bed at, I don't know, 11, half 11, and I'd got into bed and I was laying there, and then I just heard her come through the kitchen is just across from my bedroom, basically. And I heard her come through and I thought, oh, she's getting a drink of water. And then I just heard the cupboard door open, rustle, rustle, rustle. I was just like, for God's sake. But she's all right. I mean, she's a little thing anyway, so I'm not too concerned about her.
Yeah, it's always an interesting question that I like to ask, because like there is no right or wrong, but it's like it's always that perception of that, like one of the biggest things that like kind of helps later on in well, for people that always finish their plate normally need to kind of learn how to stop when they're full, and then some people that who always stop till they're full normally probably also need to be pushed a little bit to finish their plate sometimes, because they need to probably eat more because they're not they're snacking in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's because there's no right or wrong, but I think by the conditioning that you have, you're either one or the other, and then that can also shape a lot of things. Like I'm finding that a lot with a lot of clients at the moment. Like you can ask them about their childhood, about what was like, especially with the Asian market that I work with. A lot of them have always been like, you eat this, and then when your mum gives you more, you eat more as well, because you don't want to disappoint your mum, and then it's there to nourish you, and you don't want to be skinny, so therefore you have to eat this, and they'll eat until their mum's happy as opposed to what they're happy. So it's the conditioning that goes through the years and years and years will always
it comes down, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
I remember
down.
my grandpa saying when we were little that when he was at school, they used to have to eat their main course, and then to get dessert, but basically they'd have to finish the main course because then they'd have to turn their plate over to have the dessert on it, and that was their way of making sure that every child ate their main course.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
There you go. You use that one for G. I'm going to put your biscuits, but your biscuits have to go on the other side of the plate.
Can you imagine?
Well, I'm just going to eat them at the biscuit tin.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm always like, that's probably one of my favorite subjects at the moment. The small, like the kids and how they work. Well, talking about the vegetarian stuff, why did you choose to go vegetarian? And then also, what does a normal day's food look like?
Okay, so I thought you were going to go, and also, why did you show Georgia that video? So I went vegetarian. To be fair, I wasn't like a massive meat eater anyway. I ate chicken, and I would have, like bolognese or shepherd's pie, things like that. But I would very rarely eat a steak. Or if I had a roast, I wouldn't have like the roast beef or the roast lamb. Like I wasn't very meaty. I was a bit meaty, but not very meaty, basically. And then I just felt like it was really unfair on the animals, basically. In all honesty, that's why. And I'm not one of those preachy veggies either. I'm not like, oh my god, and I'm also not precious. Like if I go, like if you go to the pub for a roast, and I'll be like, can I have the roast but without the meat? Because I love a roast. It's my favorite meal, and especially living in France, because obviously we don't get to have it very much.
Yeah.
I go home and I say I have a roast without the meat, and they're like, oh, but do you mind, like, the potatoes are cooked in duck fat, or and I'm like, that's fine. Or if it's something's touched me, I'm not like that. I just, and sometimes recently, since the accident actually, from time to time, I'm like, I need some chicken. Like if I'm out and I see the chicken on the menu, I'm like, actually, do you know what? I'm going to have that. So I would say probably like 2 or 3 times a year, I'll eat some chicken if I really feel like that's what I want to have.
Yeah.
But it just goes wrong if I think about the fact that it's a chicken when I eat it. I know that sounds silly, but like if I'm sitting there chewing on it and then I think of what it actually is, I'm like, oh, and then I just have to stop. So everyone, if I'm out with people, they know, just don't talk about it.
Just close your eyes and spoonful it.
Get it down me.
There's a rule in our family from back in the day when my dad used to live on a farm with his sisters. Is that they used to have a farm, and my grandma, a wise old lady she used to say, don't name the animals because one day you'll be eating it.
Oh.
And then my auntie Linda, who she's a bit up here, she goes, oh no, that's okay, and then she ends up naming all the animals. And then one day they come in and my dad tells this story where they were just sitting at the dinner table, and Auntie Linda runs in and goes, where's yada yada? I think it was like Belletta or something like that. Where's Belletta? And then at that moment in time, Gran was coming in from the kitchen with the whole chicken on a spit, like literally cooked and roasted, because they defeathered it and done it completely. So we learned that lesson on that day was that you just can't name chickens ever.
Don't know chickens. Oh God. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think I don't think, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would go back to eating them. I think that's just how it is now.
Yeah, once you made the decision from that type of
Yeah.
standpoint, I mean, they're not gonna not kill them anymore. To
No.
there's no other way of doing it, right?
Yeah.
Well,
But now as well, like I think actually since going vegetarian as well, I found I ate much more varied meals because there's just so much more to try.
Yeah.
But yeah, so typical day for me would be in the morning either a protein shake and some cereal or eggs, scrambled eggs. I'm not vegan, just veggie.
What cereal?
Well, it depends. Cocoa Pops, Weetabix, I love.
Mhm.
Nesquik cereal, I like as well.
They're like the big crunchy rocks.
Yeah,
Oh, see, they've got some good density to them. That's a good cereal.
they are
They
good.
don't go soggy straight away either. As well, that's
No.
I think. There's a couple of things that you need to remember with cereal. Is one is like the sogginess of it over time. Two is the taste of it, and then the third is just like how much density you get for the amount of calories. I think if you can master those three things in a good cereal,
Yeah.
it's game over.
But I think my one complaint about Nesquik cereal would be that it takes a little bit longer. If we're going to get technical, it takes a little bit longer than Cocoa Pops to get the milk to go chocolatey.
Yeah, because there's actually it seems like there's less chocolate on the Nesquik than there are per square inch of the Cocoa Pop.
Yeah.
And then by the time you've got to like halfway through the bowl of the Nesquik, then that's when it starts to turn chocolatey.
Yeah. Sometimes I leave it a bit. Sometimes I pour the milk on, I'm like, I'll just wait 30 seconds.
What you could get is that you could have you seen those straws that you can get that basically turn it into a milkshake? These people are just fantastic. These ideas that people have are just unbelievable. How do people like the whole fact is that they drink milk, you're drinking milk, but you're drinking it through a straw that turns it into chocolate milk. That's just Willy Wonka stuff right there. Like Nesquik really changed the game.
Pretty clever. It was pretty clever. I don't think I've tried it, but I have seen it.
Yeah, I think you try one of those and then you just make the milk chocolatey by just sucking on the straw.
Yeah. But that's like if you have a cup of tea with a Kit Kat, if you bite both the ends off the Kit Kat and suck the. You ever done that?
I seen it done with Tim Tams.
Oh yeah.
So good. Best one. We got to have a biscuit conversation now. So at least top 3 biscuits.
Top 3. Well, my number 1 is those Viennese sandwich things from Marks and Spencer's.
Yes.
You know, it's like the biscuit, the chocolate, the biscuit.
Yes. Yeah.
And they're basically the best for dunking in a tea because it goes like soft but still fairly firm in the middle.
Yeah.
It doesn't fall off in the tea, which happened to me the other day when I tried it with a different biscuit.
Oh,
I know, horror. My day was ruined.
Yeah.
What else? Well, I don't know really. In all honesty, I don't know if I could do a top 3. Like those are my favourite biscuits. And then I'm not really picky for others. Like a biscuit's a biscuit and I like them.
If you got them, I'll eat them.
Yeah, pretty much. But I don't like, this isn't a biscuit, it's kind of going slightly into cake territory. But you know are they called tea cakes actually? You know, like it's like biscuit, then marshmallow, and then chocolate around it. And it looks like
it's got the individual foiling in like the red and the silver.
I'm not a fan of those.
Cake.
Yeah.
The problem is that I can fit one of those in my mouth without even biting it, and near enough just swallow it in one go. Like, not all because I choke, but I generally just like put it all in, and then just like it collapses because the marshmallow collapses. Then you take one bite and it goes down. So for me, that's not a particularly great food intake.
No. Do you know what? I've thought of another one I do like. Sorry.
Are you going to say club?
No, but I do love a club. I love clubs. I forgot about those. I love clubs. But you know the tonics, caramel.
Yes, they are elite. They're
so good, aren't they? I grew up with like that was my dad's. Even now, he still has them, and that was like his. And we had this biscuit tin, and Mum would buy them, put them in there, but I'd eat them all and he'd get annoyed. So he used to hide them. We had like a big cupboard and he'd put them right
I did the same thing.
And then one day I realised where they were, so I used to like sneak them out. And my mum was actually saying to me the other day, she used to like, so she'd sit on the phone down the other end of the kitchen, and she said we'd like come into the kitchen and go in, and because she was on the phone, we knew that she couldn't. I mean, she could have done, but for some reason she didn't. So it's, for whatever reason of how she is, we knew that if we opened the cupboard and took a biscuit, she wouldn't say anything because she was on the phone. And she was saying, she's like, I just remember I used to like try and pull the phone as far away as I could on the lead, and like try like be kicking with my leg, like trying to push you away, and I couldn't reach. And we'd just be like taking all the biscuits.
Yeah. We had something similar. We got the same cupboard that everything goes in, but there's always the 3 shelves. And but then equally, my mum has her own separate one in the fridge, because she's the higher power of the house. You know, she gets treated to like the good stuff, like the hotel chocolate, the Thorntons, the Galaxy, whatever she really likes is in that tub. Me and Dad are just left with the scavengers around everywhere else. And like there was periods of time where there was those Tunnock ones, crunchy bars, double deckers, and then what was the other one? Oh, and there was Aldi double chopped chip cookies. They're elite, by the way. Aldi do some fantastic, because my dad, because he's got Crohn's, he can only eat certain biscuits. But then when I came back for COVID after Barcelona, I started to get a little bit of a taste for what he was cooking, you know. So like we'd get there, and then I'd eat the stuff in the fridge. Like I'd come like down one night, I'd do the whole Georgia thing. I'd come down and rustle, and it would rustle the whole thing away. And then he'd come in the morning and be like, "What the fuck?" Like he's having. Bear in mind, my dad has a cigarette, 6 cookies, and a cup of tea for breakfast. It's like, where's my fucking breakfast? And you just hear him. I'm asleep, and I'm just looking like, uh-oh. Like, oh no. Yeah. I'm like, and I was like, I just shouted out, I was like, I'm going to Aldi later, I'll get you some. Just went back to bed.
Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go and try it. We've got a new Aldi here actually. I might have to go and see if they've got them.
They got the white chocolate chip cookie ones as well, which are very, very good. But here's the key trick to any chocolate biscuit is, if you like it to last longer, not by you eating it, because that will just result in you chewing it, but if you want it to be enjoyable at the texture it is, put it in the freezer first. So those Tunnock caramels in the freezer, for the first 10 seconds it might take your teeth off, but
yeah,
after that it's so much better. I don't know what
like these are not my kind of thing. So
you got steel toe cap boots, so basically your teeth will be fine. Yeah. Well, no, the biscuit chat is always a fantastic one. So then we move on to lunch. Sorry, we got sidetracked by.
So that was a massive sidetrack. I don't even have biscuits for breakfast. Lunch, it's either like tofu and veggies, like a stir fry. I'll just chuck it all in a pan. It's just easy. Just chuck it all in the pan with some soy sauce, and it's job done, basically. Sometimes a little bit of rice as well, depends. Or I mean, lunch, to be honest, lunch and dinner aren't that different. So just generally lunches and dinners would be something like, tofu and veggies, rice. Or I love red lentils, like a red lentil ragu thing. That's really nice. And you can have that with like pasta, potatoes, you can put it on bread. That's really nice. And then obviously loads of veggies on the side. Or like a chili, like a bean chili. That's Georgia's favourite.
Yeah.
Or we get like these, I don't even know how to explain them, but there's a shop here that sells these, like it says they're tofu, but it's not tofu texture at all, but basically it's veggie and it's got protein in it, so we buy them, and they're really nice. They're like almost quiche-ish, I would say.
That's
not like, sorry,
quiche is fantastic.
Yeah, quiche is good.
Quiche Lorraine, she's my favorite girl. Yeah.
Excellent. I mean, I'm quite a simple, do you know what I mean? I'm not like a very fancy chef by any means. I don't really like spending that much time in the kitchen. I just like to go in, make it, and get out. Yeah. So I keep it fairly simple, but I love, luckily for me, like I do love veggies, so it's not, do you know what I mean? It's not like hard for me to get veggies in or anything like that. I'm lucky. I haven't sort of ever really struggled with anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, like it's really difficult to, when you want when some people want to have that excitement from food and to have this all exciting like meal every single meal, right? It's really difficult to kind of, if you're not spending a lot of time in the kitchen, it's hard balance to kind of balance. Well, it is hard to balance because you want to spend as least time in the kitchen as possible so you can do other stuff. But then also the other side of things, you want to be able to make a meal that's tasty. So you either get good at cooking very, very quickly at the same type of foods and you make good recipes that you have, or you probably accept that you're going to have to either not have the loads and loads of different recipes, or you're going to have to spend more time in the kitchen. It's really a hard balance to for most people to grasp, because they want it all. They want amazing tasting meals, lots of variety, but limited time in the kitchen. And unless you've got a chef or you've got someone that will cook it for you, I don't really know the answer.
Well, I think herbs and spices are our friends. And I think, like, base it around proteins. If you're going to have some fish, like squeeze a lemon on it and put a couple of, like, even I didn't really even realize you can buy like dried garlic and dried onion, like in.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Brilliant. Like, I never knew that existed. So I used to be like, every day, I'm like, oh, bloody, I've got to chop another onion and chop some more garlic. Now I've found that you can just buy it in a pot. I'm like, oh, perfect. So, I mean, how quickly you can make something, literally. Do you know what I mean? If you had fish, just like squeeze lemons, shake some herbs on and chuck it in the oven, it's actually quite nice.
Yeah.
Or like, what did I do the other day when I cooked my veggies? I chucked a stock cube in there, so but the veggies were like boiling in the water, but with veggie stock, so then they were like a bit more tasty than normal. Or do you know what I mean? It's just, and it doesn't really, takes like 2 seconds, doesn't it, to chuck a cube in some water?
Yeah, it's just
things like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially like English people, we're I definitely from my family, which I say was English people, typical English people, is that we love a jar of sauce, don't we? We love a jar.
Yeah.
Like, so like a Lloyd Grossman, an El Del Paso, Uncle Ben's before they had to take the black man off the front of the jar, and like those jars are great, and they're like, I remember every single night having a different one for dinner. Like Monday night was curry night, Rogan Josh or whatever, a korma one. Next night was sweet and sour. Next night was stir fry. Next night was whatever. And we had this pattern of things, and a lot of people end up having those quite frequently. That they end up then, when going to herbs and spices, it doesn't seem as luxurious as the sauciness that comes from like the thing, which often people are like, well, I prefer a sauce, or I prefer it wet, or whatever they say, which then leads to not wanting the herbs and spices. But there's always something you can do, right?
Tin of tomatoes.
Yeah.
But it's true though, is that? And I think even when you make your own sauce, after you're used to having shop bought sauces with like God knows how much sugar and whatever added in, it doesn't taste as nice initially, maybe when you do it at home. But then, after a certain amount of time, your palate changes, and you like, you adjust, don't you, basically? And then you go back to having the shop bought one, and you're like, oh God,
it's so sweet and so like creamy and stuff. And like I was had that level of enjoyment. Like, I love nothing better than going back home now and then getting my dad to cook me one of those jar ones that taste like just like literally thick syrup, which is fine for like once in a while. But what I tend to do now with a lot of people is that you just confine the boundaries of which you expected. So normally you'd use one jar for like a meal, but now what you do is, instead of using it like a jar of sauce, you actually use it as more like a topping. So it and you can heat it up a little bit, and then you can top it over the chicken. So you're still getting the chicken covered in sauce, but you're not getting the jar of sauce in soup added with the chicken in the middle, which then gives you a little bit of a, you can have it, but you won't have 400. I think most jars are 450 calories, which is like a whole meal within itself. Like, and then you're having the chicken on top of that, you're looking at 200. That's why most dinners in most people's houses are over 1,000 calories very easily. Jar of sauce, plus some meat, plus some carbs, maybe a veg if they're lucky, and then a couple of biscuits afterwards. Sorted.
Biscuits? Nobody eats biscuits.
No. Taste an ice cream afterwards.
Oh no,
not an ice cream person.
No, only if so I love it if it's like sticky toffee pudding, And then ice cream, it's like a hot thing.
I knew you were going to be like, if it's a hot chocolate brownie and a scoop of ice cream, then I'm there.
But yeah, I don't get the whole thing with people. So here, there's an ice cream shop in the town, and everyone's like, "Oh, do you want to go to Roman's and get an ice cream?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." Why would I want to do that? I don't get it. And then they all sit on, like, there's like a little bike park. It's a very nice town, so people like go and get an ice cream and then just sit there, kind of on the floor, like watching the world go by. And I'm just like, I don't know. To me, that just, I don't get it. Don't know. It's a weird one.
Top 3 desserts.
My top 3. Well, sticky toffee pudding with white chocolate ice cream. Or Cadbury's, you know, the Cadbury's like chocolate, it's not mousse, but it's like a thing. And then they've got like, so you get like the buttons one with the little pot of buttons on the side. And, oh my God.
Yeah.
Those. Or the Rolo, like the Rolo dessert, the Rolo yogurt thing. They're amazing.
They are outstanding.
Have you ever tried to decide whether you prefer the chocolate bit or the caramel bit underneath? Because I've so many times I try and I'm like, oh no, and then I could never decide what was the best.
Yeah. It was the time when I ate 4 of them in one go that I was trying to decipher this. four attempts. But,
research purposes.
Yeah, literally research. I was doing my homework. I find that the caramel individually is very, very sweet. So therefore it can't, in one bite it's fantastic, but if you take another bite it becomes too sickly. So therefore for me, like, to last the whole Rolo, if you're going to eat multiple spoonfuls, has to be the chocolate. Like, it's enough of a density to enjoy like the chocolatey flavor, but it's not
thickness.
Yeah, it's not as sweet as the caramel, but the combination of the two is just phenomenal.
They are good. These are the things I miss so much when I'm here. Like, I go home and Mum's like, right, I've got these. It's great. We come back here with like suitcases full of stuff as well, because you can't get, like corn. You can't get corn over here. Because I remember reading an article about it a couple of years ago, and they basically felt like it was misleading by having corn sausages when they're not actually sausages. Like, that was genuinely the reason. The French minister of corn, of like health or whatever, basically he just banned it all from France.
That's mental. But not being a sausage.
For not being,
well,
technically it is a sausage, isn't it? It's just not a pork sausage.
Yeah, the sausages. Maybe they need to start calling them pork cylinders. And corn cylinders. That would be a good one.
It's a bit hard. It's the food's definitely better. You know, everyone's like, French cuisine. I get so much happier when I go back home.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of it. Like, been a few times, but it's never been something that I've really, really enjoyed. France is probably one of the places I've been to the least. Like, it's on the bottom of my list.
Yeah.
Cheers. No, that, like, it's not because of that. It's actually I just don't like I don't like culture too much, like in history. So it doesn't really resonate with me. Like, I like beaches or really big cities or like the forest. But like, if someone said to me, "Oh, this is a beautiful building that was made in the 1930s or 60s," I'd be like, "Well, I don't really care." And I'm just not brought up to that. I wasn't brought up with an interest in that. No,
but that's probably, there's only certain places in France that are like that. Like, here we've got the beach and we've got the forest. Look at me, like.
You're trying to sell it to me. That's fantastic. Okay.
Come and see us. Yeah. No, I know what you mean though. It's well, don't come if you want good food. Oh my God, delete that off the podcast.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll bring the Rolo things.
Yeah.
And then we'll definitely have some good dessert, at least that anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. A bit of humour, but also a bit of other stuff as well. So thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And I will chat to you soon.
All right. See ya.